Hello, welcome to HLA Live. HLA Live is our regular broadcast on the HLA YouTube channel as well as all the other social media channels. Each week we talk to interesting people from across the HLA community.
Good evening, everyone. I am really excited to be chairing tonight's meeting.
Hi, I'm Rosie Spooner and I'm hosting HLA Live this Wednesday.
And I'm an HLA scholar and I'm also going to be your host this evening.
To share with us their ideas and their innovations and hopefully bring them to a global audience.
Quite quick, we have ideas, let's do this, let's do that. So
many of the topics come from our community, with scholars and faculty expressing an interest in many of the discussions that we're about to have.
Hello everyone and welcome to the HLA Live session on widening participation in the postgraduate realm.
Homelessness and health.
Addiction and the new normal.
HLA programs are built on 6 pillars. The leader is an innovator and entrepreneur. The leader is a communicator. The leader is a manager. The leader as a negotiator. The leader as a follower. And the leader as a philosopher. If you are interested in becoming a HLA scholar, why not get in contact? Many of the episodes in HLA Live will cover one or more of these important pillars. The HLA team consists of Pedra, Eamon, Tim, Riddy, Alistair, Adil and Trisha, and a range of other HLA scholars and faculty.
Hi everyone, I'm Vasini and thank you for joining us for this interview discussion with Mala. So before we get started, I'm just going to ask Mala to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I'm actually really pumped for this discussion because I just think there's so much to just talk about and just kind of get out in the open. A bit about me, I am Mala. I trained at Imperial, so I did my med school there. And then went kind of quite quickly into the health tech space. I have racked up a couple of awards for it as well. So really proud that I was on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. And I work at a company called Selin now, full-time, which is looking at pain management solutions. So yeah, and we can get into all the other stuff soon, but that's like the main gist.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited to be able to have you on the conference call, so have this discussion because we spoke about a couple of weeks ago and we had such an exciting and intriguing and also challenging discussion, I'll say, from different aspects. So I think it's going to be really, really exciting. So kind of talking about medical training, because of course it sounds like you've not already had what we will call mainstream training. Is that right?
Yeah, and something that we touched upon as well, right, is that there's an expectation that everyone kind of follows suit and goes through with the normal clinical training route, but there are other options and it's fine to deviate around it. I suppose my journey is probably quite similar to what a lot of people are doing right now at med school, which is, let's say, you take it like 10, 15 years ago, what would you normally do as a med student? You'd go out, you'd have fun, the good old days, as they always say. And then occasionally you would, not occasionally, you would go on and you'd become a consultant in the hospital basically you trained at, right? Over time, this has changed into what is expected of a medical student. So my time at med school was probably like not dissimilar to what you guys, but you're probably doing a lot more than I did, because every year the bar is leveling higher and higher and higher. And of that, we're leveling the bar as well for training higher and higher and higher and higher. So at med school, I was involved in different societies and stuff, but it wasn't that much pressure to get involved in societies when I was there. I was part of our student union. Over summers, I needed to earn money and my friends were doing tutoring or working at a pub and things like that. But I just thought it quite fun to try and see what the startup world was going on. And at that time, like really, honestly, like no one was doing telehealth appointments or like it was very minimal, And so I was just kind of getting my foot in the door. And then I finished med school after doing a few internships and a few stints. So I went to Harvard's Digital Health Accelerator and I went to the European Space Agency, which was super fun. And then when I left and I started as an F1, and I was like, wait, hang on a minute. Did I do all of that stuff? And now I've kind of got here and I'm not happy. I really enjoyed the other stuff. And so, yeah, I quit 4 months into my F1. So that's kind of
Amazing.
how we ended up
Yeah.
chatting, right?
Oh well, but it's definitely it's a choice which I'm sure it didn't come easily at some point. You must have had a certain point where you had to make that choice. So how did you come to deciding to quit?
That's a big question. And I suppose that it kind of all starts with med school, right? You think that you're being creative, taking on these roles at med school and being like, you know, I was vice president of our student union and all of these things. You think it's creative, but actually it's this brand new career path that's just kind of started a bit earlier, and it leads you into some style of healthcare management. So pretty much everyone that goes into healthcare management now, they've like done a society position, they've done this, they've done that, and I thought that I was being creative, but actually you're not. Like, you're kind of still following suit. You're still being this soldier. You're inscripted essentially into the NHS army, and you're marching through every step of the way along the conveyor belt. And I remember very clearly, like a few months before the end of med school, and I'd had those, you have the doubts, right? Like everyone has the days. And I was like, do I want to do working as a junior doctor? Is that who I want to be? Do I want to be working clinically? And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what else to do. And I felt kind of trapped and isolated, and felt like the only choice I had was to do my F1. So with that in mind, and that kind of imprint in your head that this is the only choice for you, is to do clinical work. And everyone tells you, well, do clinical work on the side of your hustle, like do your side hustle on the side of it and all of this stuff, right? That instills in you that why would you ever quit? Why would you quit this career path? And it's something I still grapple to, if I'm honest with you today. Like, I still get the naysayers that say to me, why did you quit? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question though.
No, it does, and you have actually raised a couple of points there, because yes, you're talking about the choice, but you're talking about the conveyor belt, and like the standards have been brought so further down into the medical training. And I remember I read some stats up to about 71% of students applying for academic foundation jobs now, they've got publications and they've got presentations.
Did you just say 70%?
Yeah. And I remember when I started med school, they used to talk about intercalation as being just a very small proportion of students doing it, whilst now it seems like it's the vast majority of them. So why do you feel like it's been brought down to such an extent that since med school you're being conveyed, you're being funneled into the NHS or just this kind of medical training?
Oh, that makes me sad. I'm really sorry. But you know, like, I think it's impressive and it's incredible that everyone is doing all of these things, but who is it benefiting? Do everyone that's doing that, 70% of people, do they actually want to do the research that they're doing? Or do they feel like they have to do it to keep up? And something I feel like, you know, quite strongly about is that we have like the smartest, most incredible people that go to medical school, right? Like you take like the standard people that you knew that went to medical school from your school, like they're just fantastic people. And they were kind of uplifted. I always think about, like, you're at school, you're uplifted to take on the hobbies you want to do and go and do it and chase your dreams, right? Hopefully you had that experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you get to med school, and because what you're working with is the creme de la creme de la creme de la creme of academia, essentially. You know, you're working in one of the top universities in the world, amongst peers that are A-star AA students who have gone to great lengths to get there, and they are working so hard. And you look around, right? You look around at your peers and you compare yourself. And that in itself brings competition, which is good. It like helps you come up a step, and then it's just like school. Then like if everyone around you is getting A stars and you bring it up too, and all of this stuff. But at what price? Because we have to remember that like I'm 26. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23, right? We are young. And why is there this pressure and this expectation to do it early? And is it ourselves that are putting it on? Who's putting it on us? Because if the AFP people are telling you you don't need it, but then actually that you kind of do, like I mean, like, we all can't stand up and revolt and not do research. I mean, that's crazy. Like, so is it only going to get worse?
Absolutely. I remember in my very first year starting one of the extracurricular activities. It was just an evening lecture we had. I think it was a neurosurgical trainee at the front. It was developing your surgical portfolio, and they were just going through all the different things. And it already felt like a tick boxing exercise because you needed to have that thick envelope of evidence to submit when you came to your specialty application, and you sat in front of the board and it will go through your portfolio and your curriculum and examine it all. And it just felt like a tick box exercise, and you didn't get much chance to actually say, oh, I really love doing this, or I really love doing that. And for example, I intercalated. I did a master's in clinical anatomy, and when people ask me, well, why that? Well, I liked anatomy to begin with. That was my first reason. Then I wished to train in academic neurosurgery. Just the fact that I managed to do a thesis in neuroscience and quantum physics, that was a bonus, because I never thought I was ever be able to do physics in my whole life. And that's kind of my niche interest. When I say it to other medical professionals, they just look at like, oh, that's weird. That's different from the medical profession. So how do you feel we can fit in our interests without pushing them so far apart outside of our careers?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's one of the things that upsets me again is that in medicine, some of the I'm overgeneralizing here, so you have to take everything I say with a pinch of salt, and everyone listening, take it with a pinch of salt, okay? Like, we're recording this at 7 p.m. on like a Wednesday, so I mean, but essentially, right, the way that we have to think about this is extracurricular can be something to do with your work, but your extracurricular is for yourself. Your work pays the bills, to enable you to do your extracurricular, right? Mm-hmm. So, like the classic thing we were talking about, right? There are these 5 pillars that I was banging on about. You've got your friends, your family, your relationship, then extracurricular, then work. And work is just one of the 5 things that goes on in your life on a daily basis, right? But if you're not, sowing the seeds around everything else, then you're not going to have a fulfilled life. You're going to have your identity stolen by medicine. Because if medicine suddenly becomes all of your hobbies, it becomes all the friends you know, all of the conversations you have. Like, you don't go to family events now because you're doing medicine. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to have a relationship because I'm focused on my career, which is fine. Some people have that decision. But is that your choice, or is it what society has put onto you because they've told you must focus on your career? So, like, what I think is that it's absolutely fine. I have a lot of hobbies that spill into my work, but I also know my boundaries now, and it's something I've had to learn as to, right, well, like, I'm not going to do any work hobby stuff on the weekend. I'm only going to do like stuff that is really just for me. And someone once told me, if someone is not gonna know that you ever did it, right, maybe it's not actually a real hobby. Like, if you didn't care that if like say like no one ever heard that you did XYZ, would you still do it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's that fact, especially around social media, if you don't post a story about it, it feels like it's never happened. And sometimes it takes away, introduces that extra pressure that, for example, I've learned to play the piano over lockdown, and I just saw people around just playing their new instruments and just presenting their new hobbies, showcasing them, and I felt, well, I'm not that good. I'm not that good even now yet, and perhaps I will never be in the future, and I'm okay with it. It's a hobby. It's for myself. But nobody else around other than me perhaps needs to know about it. It's my personal sphere, my family sphere perhaps, and that's who I want to share it with. At least that's my perspective. And I don't want to share it with anybody else, because then it's taken away from my personal experience from that perspective.
The question is, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing that you've learned this of yourself. If no one ever knew that you were a doctor, would you still do it?
I think so. Yeah, because I remember when we spoke back a couple of weeks back, we went to talk about music, and one of the greatest passion in my life, apart from I was passionate about physics, yes, whatever, but something which wasn't about studying was music. And I've started playing the clarinet when I was 12 or 13, perhaps even younger than that. I played now for about 11 years. And then I went on to play the saxophone, but I've always wanted to play the piano. But even then, my greatest desire was conducting. And I managed to do so with the whole university orchestra. And I did that last year. And of course, COVID has put us several obstacles along the way. We had to cancel our spring concert. But being there at our winter concert 2019, on stage, being able to finally achieve that dream with very talented musicians, just my own age, it's a feeling I cannot replicate anywhere else. And even if I could stand here in my kitchen, in my dining room, just conducting to nobody, just having the piece of paper in front of me and the music playing along, that gives me a sense of satisfaction that I do not wish to share with anybody. Whether they know I'm going to be a doctor or not, it's just me and my own experience it from that perspective. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting, isn't it? That is so interesting.
How do you feel like we can take away some of the stigma actually around the fact that you can be a doctor if you wish to continue with your career as a doctor, but be more than a doctor? Your career, your work life doesn't have to define what you are ultimately. You can break away from that.
First thing we have to do is stop caring about what everyone else is doing, right? And I say this as someone that tries hard not to care, right? But like, it's this whole thing. If we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone around us, then we'll want to keep up with the Joneses. And before we know it, we would have like spiraled into something potentially that we actually didn't really care about or want to do. What my role here today is not to tell everyone to quit medicine and that it's all a bunch of rubbish and that you can go and get a job somewhere else. I mean, that's ridiculous. What I'm saying is that you have options available to you, and don't be fooled to think that because, you know, Oriel tells you that you're going to be doing F1 and F2 first, and then you might take an F3 and you go to Australia. And then after that, you're going to do your ST training, and then you'll probably take a year out, but then you'll carry on, and then you'll get a consultant post and you'll settle down. Just because that is what's laid out for you doesn't mean you have to do it, and doesn't mean it has to be that pathway. You can deviate, you can do other things. But here's the other thing, right? And we talked about this before. Don't overstretch yourself as well. And I'm queen of overstretching myself, so it's super easy for me to say this, right? But like, we all overstretch ourselves, but if you're overstretching yourselves, overstretch yourself in like the friends category. Like, go see your friends too much sometimes, right? Like, or go do loads of hobbies. You don't want to always overstretching yourself in the work category, because there are times when you will be working over the top and, you know, pre-finals or whatever it may be, you've got a big thing you want to be working on. But if your habits become who you become, right? So like, if you're constantly every day sacrificing time to call your mum, to do, you know, an extra piece of work or something that maybe you didn't need to do but you wanted to do, right? That becomes a habit over time, and then over time, even though it doesn't feel like much to you, you're morphing into someone that maybe you don't want to be. So you need to be very conscious of your daily habits, because that really defines who you are.
Yeah.
And I go off on loads of tangents.
No, I absolutely love it. You touched on something really important, and I remember in my first year, again, I started really early. I have some shame in saying that, because I felt like my work, I talk about work-life balance, and I don't like that. I prefer talking about life balance, and I feel like my work dimension has taken over a lot of my time across the years, and I'm trying to claim that back and bring it back to my own personal sphere. In order to enjoy things that I do, like music and other stuff, yeah. But I realized I went to a conference in my first year, and they were talking about work-life balance. They were talking, well, if you want to be a successful surgeon, then you'll probably have to go through divorce. You're gonna your family are not gonna see you. You're not gonna see your children growing up. Well, that's not actually something you should compromise on to begin with. Why
they
do you feel
you at a conference?
Yeah. all the examples that we had about work-life balance, where people who were divorcee, whose children didn't see them when they were growing up. So all these examples, how do you feel we can break free of those old dinosaurs in a way and actually introduce healthy work-life balance or healthy life balance in whichever career you choose?
First, we need to sort out stigma associated to men in the workplace that want to have other hobbies and want to start a family and all of these things, because right now less than full time is associated with a woman. And actually sometimes as well, like it's great if, you know, a man can go and do the school run. Like Melinda Gates in her book puts really well that she got Bill Gates to go and, you know, do the school run in the morning. And then everyone was like, well, if Bill Gates can go and do the school run, then you can go do the school run to their husbands, right? Like, so what we need to be doing though is allowing a culture where like men take off time and take out of training as well to go and look after kids, go on paternity leave for a longer period if they want to. They don't have to. A culture where like it's okay for them to come in, you know, later or leave earlier if they've got like a parents' evening, and not feel so like that they'll be shamed. And it doesn't happen in every team, across every culture, but it's slowly stuff that we just need to be normalizing. Yes. And this, you know, and it all kind of stems from, you know, as a med student, you're going around like, well, how do you talk to your professionals as well, right? Like, how do you talk to the team around you? How do you ask them about their personal life, if that's something that is a conversation about? But like, learn from them and like see what they do and how they manage things, and then we can have a more open dialogue about it. And the most important thing, right, that I think is find out what people do in the evenings when they get home, because you can tell a lot as well, right? So like for me, sometimes I'm working, like I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I'm working very late. The majority of the time though, I literally, especially in lockdown, I'm like in my slippers, in my pajamas by like 6 p.m. like maybe just finishing off like last bits of work, and then I've got Netflix on. I like cook some nice dinner. I'll be like lounging on the sofa, try to get to bed. But you know, again, that's the most important thing, because actually if you look at a lot of people who are like stereotypically successful, they do know how to like take time to meditate, take time to wake up in the morning, go for a run, take time in the evenings to take time for themselves and be around other people. But there is this association with success to sacrifice. I know there is sacrifice in some respects, but also it's a bit of a myth. It's a bit of a myth sometimes now.
Absolutely. I've just started a couple of weeks ago listening to the Michelle Obama podcast. I've never really been into podcasts, but I'm truly falling in love with this one. And in one of the episodes, she's discussing how she ran the Obama presidency, the second Obama presidency campaign in only 3 days weekly. And all the rest of the time was fit around her family, because she would just get up in the morning and looking after her children and taking the dog for a walk. She would just be focusing around it and actually giving first a schedule with time blocked off for herself and for her family to whoever was organizing the timetable. And then they would have to slot in either lunches or dinners or events around it. And I found that very important, and this is something I've started to do more with my own schedule. Actually, when I send out my timetable because we need to put a meeting in, well, this is my time where I prefer doing my music practice, and it's not going to be moved away. Comes down heaven or on earth, I don't care. This is my me time. This is my personal time, and I don't want to give it up at any cost. Are you doing anything similar, or?
Oh, well, this is the thing. You can't have everything. You just can't. It's a myth again. You can't have everything. You can't, you know, full time on like all different things. And actually lockdown put it all into perspective again, this lockdown too as well, right? That like, what do you value? What do you want to be spending your time doing? Because days merge into night and months merge into February. And I honestly don't know how it's November again. So I'm like, it's all crazy. But here's a practical thing you can do, is, I don't know if it's helpful for anyone. As I've said, I've been talking about this for the whole time, but like, if you've got a life plan of like, right, what do I want to be doing? And like, you know, let's say you're applying for an AFP right now, right? Like, you know, for the next couple of years, you want to be doing some academia, plus you want to be doing your training. Do you have that same goal set for you in your personal life? So do you know where you want to be in a couple of years' time in your personal life? And have you set some goals, and have you set some like targets and ways that you're going to change to be able to get there as well? Because there's no point just setting work goals. We need to be setting personal goals as well.
I think this is really important, and it kind of, I can feel the cogs in my head just working slowly, because it's something you don't often consider. You think you structure everything around your work life, and you think, okay, well, I'm going to move down south and this is something that's going to happen. And you think, well, it's going to happen in the future. I don't really need to think about it right now. But actually you do, because that is still you.
Yeah,
and I really like it.
It's the same as like personal finances aren't talked about much at med school at all, right? Because the focus is on your career, and it should be, because that's what you're going to university for. You're learning how to be a doctor, or that's what's happening. But it's your responsibility as like a citizen of the world, as a young person, to go and life educate yourself as to how you're going to manage your money. How are you going to deal with your paycheck when it comes in? Because it's not like student loan. Now you have to start like saving some, investing some, moving, like you have to be thinking about money. What is a tax, right? What is a tax? What are you looking for on your pay slip to know that you've paid it properly? All of these things, right? And then, as you say, how do you make sure that, like, if you want to have kids, or if you want to be married, if that's something you want to do, how are you making a life environment that you can actually do that in? Otherwise your work sucks it and takes all priority because you just haven't focused on that.
It's just, don't get me started on that. We're trying to organize a series of lectures to get medical students more financially competent, but in reality, it's like even kids just leaving college and they've never seen a bill, they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to adult, although at some point they will be adults, so they already are, and that is shocking. I think that's a completely different conversation. Let's not.
And it's when you say these things out loud, right? Like when you say out loud, the future doctors do not know
Absolutely
what a pension is. Like future doctors do not know that they can be anything they want to be. They feel trapped as to this is the only thing they can do. Like it baffles you, because if you try to tell people outside of medicine that this is how people inside are feeling, I don't think they believe you.
No, absolutely. And it's when we talk about resilience, and it comes down to, well, who's your role model? Oh, I want to become that specific consultant I've seen or work with, or perhaps is whatever reality TV show they've watched. But they're not thinking about the entire sphere, like you said, is thinking about your personal life as well. It's not just your work life. And I often think about resilience, and we're often seen from the outside, oh, they can do everything and anything. They know how to get there. But actually, there's a lot that goes on in the background, a lot of choices that we consciously or subconsciously make that will affect us for the rest of our lives. So kind of going back to the very beginning of our conversation when we spoke about the conveyor belt. I know, I'm sorry, I'm going to stress about it. I really want to go back to it. How can we break free from it? Because I'm sure, like, I want to believe that the majority of students who are currently medical students, healthcare professional, future healthcare professionals from any degree that, of course, they're currently attending, they really want to continue with their career, but perhaps they're not fully satisfied with their work conditions or whatever they heard about life later on. How can they break free of this one career path that is being structured for them? How can they develop their own persona alongside their work persona?
Oh, good question. I know you really want me to answer this. The thing is, I am no expert on this, right? I'm no expert on this. I made what you could argue a very selfish decision to leave clinical practice in my F1. I left a rota short. I left because I wanted like a better working environment, which is completely selfish. And so and that's the truth in it, right? Is that's that. So, but maybe that needs to change as well, right? Maybe the way that we even think about that. How can you practically today, though, start thinking about other things? Well, first, it's all stems from gratitude to where you are right now. Look back and take stock at where you are, right? So no matter where you are in your career, and obviously I'm early in my career, so you can not listen to me, but like what I would say is turn backwards and look at what you've achieved. First of all, that's got you to where you are, and like put your feet on the ground and like take a moment and think about all of the things that you have done to get you and how proud you would be 5 years ago. Then remember that drive that got you here was someone that was full of ambition to get you to have a life that is fulfilling, that you're helping people, that you're intellectually challenged, that you're, stimulated on a day-to-day basis, that you have opportunities to work abroad, that all of these other things. That same person isn't gone. But what you have is a very stable, and it is stable, it's fantastic, it's a stable career path, conveyor belt through the NHS, which will lead you on an 8-year run on average to a consultancy post. Just because that's there though doesn't mean it has to be the only thing you do. And so that is a really stable thing, but you have to imagine it like you're going on a nature walk. You're going to get to the end, but you can jump off at little bits and get distracted, but like, as long as you're always on the same path, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting to if your goal is consultant or your goal is, a director of an NHS trust or whatever that is, as long as your end point is there, it's okay. As long as everything you're doing is getting you there, and you're learning on your way. So practically you can look at things that you're interested in, like just go learn about it, go take opportunities, do some research, do some internships. I'm saying it like it's super easy, but like get your CV sorted, get your LinkedIn up, start learning about, like how do you apply for jobs? How do you sell yourself at interviews? All of these things that like everyone that's been on a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree has already learned because they've had to apply for a job. Just go skill up in the same job skills as them. And then once you've kind of got these skills and you know how to know your own value, you know how to present yourself, this is my CV, this is my skill set, this is what I can offer, then you can start trying to get, some like paid work, try and learn around it, think about other opportunities, whether it's a 1-year fellowship or, building a startup on the side of whatever work you're doing. But the most important thing is whatever that journey looks like, whatever your nature trail looks like, you must surround yourself with people that are there to support you and pick you up. And you want friends that you're going to call. Like one of my best friends, I called her when I got a rejection once and I was like ugly crying. And I called her and I was like, I'm so upset, just got rejected from something I really wanted. And then she was like, so find something else you want. Like, it's you, just go do it. And that's what you need, right? You just need people that are just going to literally pull you up and be like, keep going. And you don't want people that are going to keep you, well, unless you want to, but you don't want the people that are just going to keep you stable. You want people that are going to challenge you, especially whilst you're young. And you've got that freedom to do it. Some people don't have the luxury of being able to go off course. And if you have that luxury, think about if you want to use it. And help others that might not have it.
I love it. And I absolutely thank you for that piece of advice. I love how you took my question. You really went beyond it. I think this was the answer that was needed, perhaps not what I was looking for. So thank you very much, Mala. And I think it's extremely important. And I want to add something to what you said. I know that sometimes, and we know financial pressures, whatever background you come from, sometimes picking up different things along the way is not an option for you. But actually, I've seen some of my friends who are already doctors here in the UK or in Italy, and of course some friends in the States. Actually, once you get there, you have time, you have the opportunity, perhaps you have the financial stability to choose other options, to go off your nature walk path and actually pick up all those things you couldn't do before. And I think for example, I grew up in Italy. It was the concept that past your 30s, you can't learn much more because your brain is limited. And that's not actually the case. You can learn so much more. Like, for example, my dad is trying to learn how to write with his left hand and he's right-handed and he's trying to speak more English. So, and he's 71 and there's no limit to what you can learn at any different stage. And I think this is extremely important to just become whoever you want to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I know you're on your own journey. And sometimes you're slow, sometimes you move fast. Sometimes it's just like There are moments where you just need to spend time with your family, and then there are other times where you're full focus on your work. It's okay to have ups and downs and blips, and like it's fine. It's life, and it's a bit rubbish, and it's not this Instagram glamour that it's always there, you know, that like, and this prime LinkedIn profile, like it's not like that. Like you know, starting off your career is tricky and it's hard, and it's not just hard for you, it's hard for everyone. I mean, like, I can't imagine anyone in their 20s being like, yeah, that was easy. That was like a really easy decade. So yeah, that was really good. So cool. Next. Like 20s is hard, and like even like any other time, but it's hard. You have to learn who you are, and you have to learn what skills you have and how you want to apply them, and what is your values and what motivates you. What is your personal mission?
Absolutely. And just to kind of close off our conversation, if that's okay, and I want to touch on failure and difficulties that you encounter. And you already spoke about having a supportive network of family and friends, people around you literally drag you up wherever you are, and just they help you pull yourself together and go for the next challenge. And I think that's extremely important, especially when you're feeling solo, you can't do anything else. But we talk about resilience, and I remember once we spoke to Simon Fleming, one of the orthopod registrar in London, and he always talks about resilience as like this kind of level up, and you're at a baseline if you're a normal person, but as a doctor you're already up here, and there's so little space that you can still move up in order to have that resilience. And they talk about us as lacking resilience, but actually we already tolerate so much. So when we're already up there, how can we deal with failure in such a constructive way in order to pull ourselves up rather than drag ourselves down?
We need to normalize failure, right? We just need to normalize it. It's absolutely fine to get rejected from something. It's fine to not get a good grade. But you're taking people that pretty much have never failed until maybe they get to med school. Maybe they even get through the whole of med school and they still haven't failed, right? Like maybe their first failure is going to be in their working life. Like actually, really, we need to be failing earlier. And the more opportunities you get to fail, like you've got to just do it, because the more used to it you get, the better you'll be able to be adaptable and just keep going. And like, and you won't view it as a failure, you'll view it as a mistake, like, and you'll be like, you know, or not even a mistake, like you'll view it as a learning point, right? And then you'll just move on, and then you'll pick yourself up and off you go. But this is me talking today. Like if you'd seen me a few weeks ago when I had failure, I was like bedridden, crying, like, you know, like it's still rubbish, but you've got to go through it. It's the only way it happens. So yeah, just let's keep normalizing failure and any opportunities we can do. I keep saying we need to have like a failure day where everyone comes and has rubbish ideas and nothing successful comes from it.
Failure hackathon.
Amazing.
Start letting med students fail.
Yeah, absolutely. Just bringing it on. And I remember a couple of weeks ago I was talking to one of my colleagues, and they wanted some advice for their portfolio. And I, like you said, I paused and I went back and realized actually I'd done a lot. And they were like, oh, this is really impressive. Yeah, but you don't see the share of failures along the way. You've seen this paper being published. I've tried to submit it 5 times before being accepted for publication. And you don't know how much I beat myself up along the way before achieving that outcome. So yeah, I totally agree with you. So lastly, what are your top 3 tips or piece of advice you would like to give your younger self?
My younger self, oh God. It would be to not think just because I am an adult I have to like grow up. Like just keep being creative, keep being fresh, keep looking for challenges basically. And I think the only other thing is just to keep to tell yourself that you're proud of yourself. And that's like a normal thing to say, which is be like, I'm proud of myself. And you should be proud of yourself. If you're not saying you're proud of yourself, then like who's going to say it to you, right?
Yeah.
You need to acknowledge your own achievements.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mala. I've enjoyed this so much, and I wish we could carry on. But thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you at the next event, won't we?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone that made tonight's episode possible. Whenever our scholars are thinking about complex problems facing our health systems, we encourage them to think about how they make significant change in the world of healthcare. We are incredibly lucky to have some incredible scholars in the HLA. They use the HLA as a platform to take their ideas and bring them to fruition. If you are interested in the work of the HLA, why not join us at one of our future HLA events? Why not join one of our programs? Why not even become a HLA scholar? Thank you for joining us. My name is Johan Malwana, the director of the HLA, and it's a good night from all of us.